All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of Vinny Presents. And I'm excited to introduce to you today, via Los Angeles, my man Gary Private. He's actor, singer, songwriter. Gary, welcome to the show. How are you?
Vincenzo, I'm good, brother. I'm good. Thank you for having me on, man. You've had some great guests on, and yeah, I'm excited to be here.
And with present company included, you're also a great person. I've been looking a little bit at your background, your profile. I like it, man. And it looks like you're up some big elbows, and you're still out there. And you started out in New York. Is that correct?
You know what? I've rubbed some major elbows. Born in New York City, lived on Avenue U and East 18th Street for 30 years. Well, not 30 years, but yeah, the beginning of my life. I went to PS 255 and James Madison High School, and it all started my direction when I was 10 years old. Literally, I grew up in the neighborhood of Sheepshead Bay, Gravesend, Brooklyn, Avenue U, Coney Island Avenue. My father was the president of the Three Keys Italian Social Club on Coney Island Avenue and Avenue Y. Um, I could have went either way, man. I could be in jail today. Because I knew all these guys. I knew a lot of those guys, from Brooklyn that went down that road. Um, on February 7th, 1964, when I was a kid, the Beatles landed. It changed my life, man. They changed my life. Again, I was only 10 years old. Let's get serious. But so, I started playing drums, and I think everybody in the whole world, you know, um, got into music. Everybody wanted to play guitar. Everybody wanted to be like the Beatles, and so so I started playing drums. And as the years went by, I'm 10 years old, I'm 11 years old, I'm 12 years old. And so now I'm like 16, 17. And most of the people who got into that groove, they grew up and they went their own way. By the time I was 19, 20, they were married. They went into, some people, postmen, and other way they were cops. And I was the one of the few that stuck with music. And I became really good as a drummer, man. I was really good, and I was in this band called Legs Latrue, and we would play CBGBs and Max's Kansas City and the Coventry. We opened up for Kiss. I opened up for Talking Heads. Uh, Deborah Harry. All these 80s people. 80s people. But really, it was like the mid 70s before anybody was famous. So, as it turns out, I I go down to Florida, and we do this little tour in Florida, and I get ripped off, and these guys robbed the truck that had all my instruments. So now I come back to New York. I don't have drums anymore. I have nothing. And I used to always sing behind the drums. I would sing background to piano. And everybody said, "Hey, why don't you sing?" So I gave it a shot, and all of a sudden, I decided this was something I really liked, and I felt that, it was just in my soul, man. I just love singing. So, long story short, I put out a record. I do a remake of "Reach Out, I'll Be There" by the Four Tops, and it gets released on this little independent label, Select Records, who, they had Kid and Play, they had the Jerky Boys. Remember the Jerky Boys?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, so Calvin Klein had his birthday. I don't know. It might have been 1982. It was 81, 82, 83. I'm not sure, but he had his birthday party at Studio 54, and he asked me to sing, and actually Gloria Gaynor opened up for me, which was kind of cool. So anyway, there's a really funny story behind that, but maybe I shouldn't get into that. Uh, so, yeah, no, it was a funny story because it was Calvin Klein's party. Okay, I'll tell you really quick. So here I am. I'm really young, So I'm going to Calvin Klein's party at Studio 54, right? And I'm all excited. Oh man! So now they can't have the whole band, and everything was pre-taped that most of the singers were lip syncing to. So what they did though was we would edit the song so it was minus the lead vocals, and in my case we minus the lead vocals, we minus the bass guitar and the background vocals, because they had us on this catwalk. And it was all the way up in the middle of the sky. Like it was, 3 stories up on the dance floor. And it was just a really small catwalk, maybe 2 feet wide. And so they had to play the tape minus me singing live. And then I brought Kenny Aronson on bass, who's, a world-renowned bass player. And then I had background vocals. And so here I am again, real excited, right? Because I'm thinking, oh my God, all the women and the models and everything. So all of a sudden the music starts and the catwalk starts to come down slowly, and the smoke and the disco ball. It was wild. And so now it's coming down and they start the beginning of the song. And I can't see anything. I can't see the crowd. I can't see nothing because the lights are really still off. So I'm wearing a Calvin. He gave me this Calvin Klein leather jacket. I had no shirt on, and I had my back turned to the audience. And I'm recalling this because it was a thrill. It was a big thrill. And I remember that it went down, and it starts off, and then in the song, "Darling, Reach Out," right? I spin around and I loosen the mic stand so I can drop, to my knee. And I said, oh man, I can't wait to see, all these women, these models I'm going to meet. The lights went on and it was a sea, an ocean of men with their shirts off. So I mean, not that there's anything wrong with that. It was wild. It was wild because I mean, again, it was a thrill. It was a great experience. That was just a funny story because in my mind, I thought it was going to be a bunch of screaming young girls and it was a screaming grown men. So with that aside, and then Atlantic Records the next week signed me. I mean, out of nowhere, I got a phone call saying, I actually came out here to LA to visit a friend, and I get a phone call saying, come on back. You just got signed. So we went in and did a little album and then released like maybe 5, 6 or 7 singles. I did American Bandstand Radar Record twice and won both of them. Actually, I think I got one of the highest ratings ever on American Bandstand.
And rate this one by Gary Private, Waiting for You. I'm waiting for you, baby, help me. I'm waiting for you, easy to see. That's what you call a winner. A 90, a 95, a 92 and a half. They don't get much better than that.
98. 96, whatever, but it was in the high 90s, which the highest rating you could ever get was a 98. You couldn't get above 98 on Radar Record, and so that was a thrill. They put me in Teen Beat magazine, so there I am. I'm there, and I had Travolta and Rob Lowe and Richard Grieco and these guys, they're all on the cover, and there I am. They gave me this whole spread, and then being in New York, when the winters would come and having visiting LA, having visited LA, I saw my first palm tree, in my life, and I think it was 1979 or something. I just visited, and I just fell in love with Los Angeles, and I developed some close friends who were originally from Brooklyn that I hooked up with. 10 years go by, and these are one of my regrets, that I stopped pursuing my art. Whether it was singing or drumming, I just stopped. I got very jaded and disillusioned, and came out to moved out to LA, And you know, and for 10 years I party. I'm hanging out with Mickey Rourke. I'm hanging out with, you know, just every star you can imagine. It just, for some reason, it just clicked that way. And I had a great time, man. I mean, I wouldn't change it for any. I wouldn't change it for anything except the fact that, you know, I fell down some rabbit holes that a lot of people get victim to, you know. But I was able to pull myself out of it, and then I started working at the House of Blues, where I was the doorman for the VIP room, the foundation room, for 10 years. And there, I met everybody in the world, just everybody. I befriended them, and it was probably one of the greatest, you know, real jobs that I had, you know. So so later on, you know, hanging out here in LA, I I befriended Frank Stallone, who Frank, I got to tell you, man, Frank was a big part of my decision making later on here in life, because he also took a little bit of a break, and then I saw him just get back on stage and get and start recording, you know. And I mean, not that he never really left the business, you know, but again, he sparked me, man. He gave me that spark to say, you know what, I started missing music again. And so so I started. I flew back to New York, where I had, you know, I had recording studios at my disposal, and I recorded one of Frank's songs, "Carry On," and then I recorded three or four songs that I wrote, and it was fun. I mean, I got the bug again. I got the bug again. So things are going great, man. And then as things go on, I met Diane Warren, who now took me into the studio. Well, yeah, she allowed me to use her studio and her engineer and the entire premises. And I fell in love with the song from Star Trek Enterprise, the theme song from that television show that she wrote. And she's so brilliant, man. I'm in love with her, you know. So I went in and recorded that song to mild success, you know. And then I went back in and I did Painted on My Heart fairly recently. And I think, you know, that came out great. I was very proud of that song. So then I do another song she wrote, which was a duet that she did with Teddy Swims and Paloma Faith, the song "Only Love Can Hurt Like This." And I fell in love with that song too. And I had access to the tracks and I did it, but Sony Music wouldn't allow me to release it as a real release, because they had released Teddy Swims' duet. So I wasn't really allowed to legally release it. So that was a little bit of a bummer.
And I mean, Gary, if you don't know it by now, you lived a very interesting life so far. And you mentioned some really interesting people. Obviously, I mean, geez, Gloria Gaynor, huge. But Frank Stallone, who I love, he's an amazing, amazing musician, great acapella. And Mickey Rourke, I'm a huge fan. One of the most underrated, best actors ever, and not just time, but ever.
Yeah. Well, yeah. And listen, Frankie's brilliant, man. You know, he's got a guitar line out now, Frank Stallone guitars, and he's got Uncle Frank's bourbon. He's got a whiskey. He's got a bourbon that is awesome, by the way. But okay, so
with that, now it sounds like the theme here is that you basically have always, you know, you've always tried to get out of your comfort level to make sure you did something that you really liked and you really love. So I believe, and I said this before in other shows too, everybody's got a certain vocation that they're called to, right? There's this itching desire. That's what God, I think, and, you know, not to be biblical here, but I think that there's a certain destiny that we're kind of nudged along. And sometimes that changes. Sometimes you start out as one, you know, doing one path, and then you get pushed into a different one. But the fact that you're in your comfort zone, because I identify with you in 2008. Actually, going back in 2000, I moved to Italy for a little while. My parents, In 2008, I lived in LA. I used to, I was living in Thousand Oaks, driving the 101, what's that, the 405. I was working in Beverly Hills at Il Fornaio, like, and so, but I
You
understand.
were you? I didn't know that.
Yeah. And it's one of the most joyous years of my life. And there's a lot of times, just as you say, regret. I say, ah, man, I should have stayed, But look, and dude, I loved it, man. I loved the experience of being somewhere fresh. You had a fresh palate,
Yes,
and you could
yes,
all your past sins are forgiven, and now it's all up to you.
yes. Because I came here when I first came to LA again. Besides the palm trees and and everything. Yeah, I was disillusioned with New York. Now, I was in LA for a year, and I got extremely depressed. I was lonely. I didn't know a lot of people because I still haven't yet hooked up with these people. So I'm alone. So I said, ah, man, I had to go back. I went back to New York because what happens is you only remember the good times in New York. You remember the great friendship and the childhood and the neighborhood, and Luigi's Pizza on the corner, or you just remember the good stuff and you miss it. So when I went back to New York, 5 minutes after I got off the plane, and I looked around at just gray and brown. There were no colors, man. It was just gray and brown, and it was winter. And I realized why I left. And then I never went back. I went, and then I think 6 months later, then yeah, I went back to LA. I went back to LA, and I never went back to New York. Yeah, I mean, Nick Vallelonga, he got me my SAG card, and I never really had an interest in acting, and then all of a sudden I got this acting bug, and Nick put me in his movie Stiletto, where I worked with, I mean, it was great, William Forsythe and Tom Berenger, Michael Bean, and just man, you should see the list of people. It was really beautiful, and me and Nick go back. As soon as I came off the plane, I mean, me and Nick used to work nightclubs together, So I'm really Nick Vallelonga and Frank Stallone are probably my two closest friends out here. Other than that, I know everybody in this town, but real friendship is kind of hard to come by. And Joe Cortez, he's an awesome guy too. Says, I had some great national commercials. Did an Orbit gum commercial, and I did some little projects, and then I did the episode of The Blacklist. So that's still something that I really love now too. So now I'm going down two different, avenues, and and life is just kind of zipping by, and I don't know. It's hard for me to put a finger on it, man. I love them both, but I think music still has my heart and soul. I mean, to me, music was just. I mean, that's something I do. I can do that in my sleep. I do that with my eyes closed. It's just something that is in me, and and acting is a craft. And yeah, things are going good. So most recently, I've I did this duet of one of John Waite's songs, "Missing You." Remember that song? Yeah, I'm
I
just.
listened to it actually on your Insta. It's really good.
Yeah, thank you. Actually, it's not even released yet. It gets released next Saturday, but it's already number 20 on one of the UK charts. And it's not even released yet. And this woman, Caitlin Gray, she's really sweet, and I put her through hell. Yeah, I put her through a little hell, But anyway, she was just beautiful. She was brilliant. I went in and sang it, and then I sent it back to Liverpool, and then she added her vocals, and And then Neil Harvey, he did all the music, and he was brilliant too. So she did an amazing job, and I was so happy with the results. And so right now, that's in the process of. I mean, that is right now happening. So yeah. So I would love. I mean, people go to iTunes and spend the 99 cents and download our duet of "Missing You."